Let me bring on board Sanjay Shah. Switch the conversation over. SIP flows came in yesterday, AMFI data. Sanjay, who's the Chairman Managing Director at Prudent Corporate Advisory, joining us this morning to give us a sense of how he's viewing those numbers. Sanjay, two pieces which really stood out. One was that the SIP flows cooled off from the elevated levels of 31,000. Of course, maybe lower number of days also impacting those flows to a certain extent. But give us a sense as to how this will likely play out going forward, in your opinion, and whether the other big piece was that gold ETF flows also cooled off sharply. How are you looking at both of these?
Yeah, good morning, good morning. And probably you very rightly said that this month there were a number of days were 28 and last day of the month was falling on Saturday. So my belief is that all the SIPs where the installment date is after 28, which is 28, 29 and 30th would probably get debited to customers' account in the month of March. So we should not look at this 1,200 crores of fall or 4% fall as a long-term dent in the SIP book. My belief is that you will see a good amount of uptick in the March number itself. So there is no change as far as the SIP numbers are concerned. As far as gold and commodities concerned, you are right, because I think the February was the month where the patience of the investor has been tested because of significant volatility. So I believe a lot of profit booking would also have came, and a lot of volatility has probably played a very important role. So yeah, definitely, because in the month of January, rather, the flows in gold was higher than the equity, which has happened for the first time in the history of mutual funds, where people invested more money in gold than the equity. But I think in the month of February, that number from 20,000 crores came down to 5,000 crores. Rather, in case of silver, we have seen the outflow of about 826 crores. So probably my belief is that that euphoria of investing into commodity has probably came to some kind of standstillness. And we have seen the significant volatility in the commodity probably after in the last week of February. So my belief is that you might see more tepid number in the month of March as far as investment in commodities is concerned.
But what about the equity classification itself, Sanjay? Given how last month has actually panned out, what's the analysis like? Is the preferred tilt still towards large caps?
So I think the multi-asset allocation category is becoming a very, very powerful instrument, because there you have the allocation to commodity and the global exposure also comes. So I think that is one category where, if you look at last month, out of 40,000 crore of net flows, there are two categories which occupied almost about 20,000 crore, which is one was the multi-asset allocation, which is roughly about 10,400 crore, and about 7,800 crore came into a flexi cap. So flexi cap is now also becoming a very large category, where almost your 65% money goes into a large cap. So there is the direct exposure to a large cap fund is not significantly larger, but the money through flexi cap is going into a large cap. And then probably there are another three vanilla funds like your mid cap, small cap and large cap, which I think mid and small has contributed about 3,000 crore each, and 2,000 crore came into large cap. But overall, I think it's a very good sign that people are now moving towards the multi-asset allocation category and the flexi cap, where you do not require to do a allocation timing, and it is the fund manager who will decide where the money should go.
Okay. With regard to the sharp cool off in gold, Sanjay, I want to come back to that point. What, in your opinion, led to the kind of spike that we saw? Was it just gold prices going up and therefore you saw that kind of traction? And now the cool off, because it was at 24,000 in January, 24,000 crore. It's come down to 5,000 crore. What's led to this kind of spike and above?
So I think the lump sum money which has gone probably significantly in the previous month has probably, so you look at the money, the flow has tepidly came down. So it's not that money has been removed from the gold, but because the month of February was very, very volatile, you've seen that the huge amount of volatility and the noise around the geopolitical tension was very, very visible. So that's the reason I think the incremental allocation has not came. And definitely because the distributor are also playing a very huge role, that please, this is not a time to go wholeheartedly to invest into this category, and please go very slow. So it's the allocation which has been reduced. On the contrary, I think what is surprising was in case of silver, there is 826 crore of outflow. That is more important to say, because I think we have seen that from 4 lakh to almost about 2.5 lakh. So the volatility in the silver was very, very huge. And I'm very firmly of the view that this kind of behavior will continue in the month of March also. And probably at least for next 2-3 months, you will see very, very low allocation to commodity as an asset class now.
But Sanjay, do you fear that given that the steeper fall has only happened in the last 1 week, the number next month could be a little bit of an aberration or not quite?
So it could be because I think you might see negative flows in gold and silver both in the month of March. However, I think we always tell that you should continue to have the allocation to gold and silver, not after looking at the historical return, but it's a very important asset class. And probably silver has become a part of allocation only in last 1 year. Otherwise, we never used to talk about silver. But then gold, I think, we normally say that at least 10% of your portfolio or 15% of portfolio has to be there. So I think the regular allocation will probably continue. But anybody who has came just by looking at the what you call the last 12 months or 24 months return, I think that will probably come down now.
Okay, Sanjay, just last off with regard to SIP itself, and therefore, you were alluding to maybe a 13 to 1400 crore offset in the month of March. Will that mean that we will have a materially larger number, record SIP flows very, very likely for the month of March, just because of the fact that there is that positive tailwind from February, which is going to come into March? Some of those flows have slipped into March. And therefore, maybe the March number will have an elevated kind of a SIP number. Is that something that one can expect?
So let me tell you from the same number from a prudent perspective, because the industry report the number based on the money which has been hit to the bank and the money which has been collected. That is the number which has been reported by the AMFI. And at our end, we report the number based on the SIP book. I can tell you my SIP book, which was 1185 crore in the month of January, has ended at 1200 crore in February. So my SIP book has gone up by 15 crore. And if I really represent the retail of the India, then that itself shows that the SIP number has not reduced. Now, when you talk about the collection of the money which has been debited to the customer's account in the month of February, naturally, because the 29th and 30th, there is a rule that if the SIP date is 29th and 30th, then you will debit to the customer account on the 1st. That is number one. And second, your last day was also a holiday. It was a Saturday. So I'm of the firm view that you might see the March number very, very great. However, the last 2 working days of March also falls on the holiday, because you have the Mahashivratri and the Saturday, Sunday comes on the 31st. So I don't know how it will virtually pan out. It might happen that March number might also have a spillover in April.
Oh, okay. All right. So very interesting. All of that likely to play out. Thank you so much, Sanjay, for joining us this morning. We'll let you go on that note. And one of those spaces or one of those other spaces which have been impacted by everything that's happening in the Middle East is the chemical space. Ajay Joshi